Oi, so remember all that discourse about how there's a rape culture in these societies that we live in? And those friendly folks over the aisle were like, nah, no rape culture here, because like there's laws against rape in the West and that. And if I asked blokes if they'd raped someone, they'd go, nah. There have always been profound responses to this narrative from real world examples and the realm of academia, of course. But conservatives and the right generally in Australia, in their ongoing mission to prove us correct in ways we really fucking wish they wouldn't, have given us a clusterfuck of confirmation of late. Let's recap the last month or so on this issue, since it is kinda hard to remember all of the raping and covering up of the raping that's been going on. First up, we've got the ridiculously brave Brittany Higgins, who came forward with her story of being attacked by a Liberal Party staffer in Parliament House in 2019. In response to this, our bloke in charge of forcing you into a photo op told us all about how he was convinced to give a shit by his wife when she asked him to imagine that the victim was one of the women or girls he considers valuable. We then got lots of fun details about how the Liberal Party's initial response was to make Miss Higgins feel she had to choose between reporting the crime and her job, to tell her as much in the room where she was raped, and apparently it took a long time before anyone decided they should tell Scotty about what had happened. Then, 3 more women came forward to say that they had also been raped by that same guy, who had now gone on to a career in lobbying. Jesus fucking Christ. Defence Minister Linda Reynolds, presiding over another segment of our society with a deeply entrenched rape culture for some time now, had been due to answer questions about this at a media presser since she was the one Higgins and her attacker had worked for, but then sadly had to go to hospital right before it started. I'm sure that covering for rapists is stressful, so who knows, maybe that wasn't a complete fucking lie. Among all that, we've got something that I feel has been allowed to fly under the radar far too much amid a focus on the Liberal Party. Pauline Hanson's One Nation was revealed to have re-employed this specimen after he went to prison for rape and assault. At the time of the charges being laid, he'd been a media advisor for Malcolm Roberts, who predictably hasn't had much to say. Then, we come to a situation that is still unfolding, and I'm not sure how much myself or anyone else really should be saying about this for a few reasons. In trying to give the broad strokes but also to acknowledge what went down, then, I'll go with this. When you've got a victim who has taken her own life, who has provided her story to a great many people over the years, and when the alleged perp has a history of disgusting behaviour towards women, well, let's just say I'm not that convinced by a leader who reckons both that he understands how bad the situation is and that there's nothing to see here or for him to do. But yeah, I hope what I've said about that issue was appropriate, and feel free to let me know if you disagree. There was one other notable attempt at defence here from the Libs, who did a real good job of really subtly reminding everyone of accusations made against Bill Shorten a few years back. Now look, it should be noted here that unlike other examples, and as the Labor stands will be quick to tell us, Bill was exonerated after being investigated, which is something that certain Liberal MPs will not be facing. Personally, I think if the price of the right wing doing better is Bill Shorten's career, well, I couldn't give a shit and I would happily pay. But regardless of that or the truth here, this is piss weak. Pointing at the other side and shouting "no you" is not a defence of anything. If the best you've got here, you dogs, is the idea that Labor also has a history of covering for rape, well, we've known that for a while now. The fact that they're fucked up gronks too is not a cover. So then, let me say the thing that should be obvious, but that it seems we're doomed to repeat for eternity anyway. This is what rape culture looks like. For fuck's fucking sake, what else do you call it when rapes not only happen with little to no consequence, but those in power openly display how little they understand or give a shit and do everything they can to minimise the fallout as a priority over victims? Which, well, fuck it, is being way too fair. The victims aren't just deprioritised, they're treated like fucking liabilities. And look, don't talk to me about depictions in media and the impact of false allegations to counter any of this in broader terms or otherwise. For every example of rape being depicted as a bad thing, I'll find you one of rape being treated as no big deal or even a celebration. As well, chances are your example of bad rape is also an example of rape depicted in a manner that does not gel with reality and focuses on the diminishment of the usually female victim as worthwhile to the men in her life as opposed to her trauma. The data does not bear out on false allegations neither, everyone should know that by now. Just shut the fuck up. Moreover though, even if the above was convincing, it doesn't speak to the facts presented earlier anyway. Like, I'll accept that you're more likely to see justice if perps are not rich and powerful, though again not nearly likely enough, but all that would mean is that the culture is that the rich and powerful get away with it, which is still fucking rape culture. If you're continuing to equivocate about this at all, look, you're almost as bad as the rapist you're defending, and it's time you bowed out and got out of the way so the rest of us can start to do something about a very, very serious problem. Laters.